Hey everybody, I know I've been missing in action for a few weeks, but I had to have surgery on my throat and my stomach. I had a hiatal hernia, which was causing me to have really bad GERD and reflux, and the acid was coming up and burning my throat, my esophagus, so I had to take a little time off to get that taken care of. But now I'm back, and we're going to talk about depression today. I had been suffering with depression this year. It just came because I had got sick, and then I'm always sick off and on due to the lupus and the fibromyalgia, and I've always suffered from depression. So I was feeling like such a loser. I just felt like, I can't work, I can't do anything, my life is over, what am I gonna do with myself? I just felt like it was nothing for me to do, and that I'm just taking up space in the world. So my husband came up with the idea of starting this YouTube channel because, I am a nurse and I do like to talk a lot, and he just thought it would be good that I could be doing something in a similar field, like talking to people, educating people, telling my story, just doing something so I wouldn't feel so bad. And I must say it has made me feel different. I really like this, doing it on this channel, because I can spread education and tell people what I've been through. It's a good outlet for me. That's what I was trying to say. But of course, like I told you guys, I keep losing my train of thought, so that's why I have to have my computer in front of me, but I didn't write that one down. So let's get started. We're going to talk about depression. As I stated, I've been suffering from depression since I was about 19 years old. I had all the symptoms: suicidal, hopeless, helpless, can't concentrate, non-productive. So I went to my doctor, and she started me on a medication called Zoloft. I was on that medication for about 2 weeks before I started having more suicidal thoughts, where I actually was planning out how I was going to kill myself. So I went back to the doctor, and we discussed me just trying to cope with the symptoms on my own without that medication, because they were making me feel worse. So that's what we did. All throughout my 20s, I pretty much self-medicated. I drank a lot in my 20s, partied a lot, trying to keep my mind off of the life I was, the life I had been given and what I was going through at that time. So when I turned about 30, then I started thinking, like, you can't just live your life like this. You gotta do something with yourself. So that's when I decided to go to nursing school. And then, I graduated after a few years, and a couple of years. It wasn't a couple of years. And then I was working. I had started working at a job. I was working as a student nurse there, and then they hired me on in once I got my license, and I was doing fine. And then out of nowhere, I was about 34 at this time, out of nowhere, here comes the depression again. So I was unable to finish my shift at work that day. I couldn't think. I was just so jittery and nervous, and I was just all over the place. And so I told my DON that I could not finish the shift out, and because she found somebody to replace me. So she came on the floor and replaced me. And the next day I went to my primary care doctor, and it was really trial and error from there, because she tried a lot of different medications for me. I mean, a lot. Either they were too strong and kept me asleep for days at a time, or they was too weak. They didn't do anything. So we went through this for about a good 2 months, and then she finally asked me to try this medication called Cymbalta. It was kind of new on the market, and she said it's supposed to help you with depression and your joint problems. So I did have joint problems from the lupus, so I decided to go ahead and give it a try. And actually that one was successful. So I stayed on that one for about 2 years before my system wasn't reacting to it anymore. My body gets used to medications really quickly. So I was on a really high dose. I was on like double the amount that they recommend. So I was on 120 milligrams. They only recommend that you take 60 milligrams a day, but I was on 120. So the medication just started working just enough for me to get up for work, go to work, come back home, go to sleep. And that was my routine. Home, work, sleep, home, work, sleep. I had a 9-year-old at the time, and I couldn't do anything with him. I wasn't able to even go outside with him. It was a good thing my mom was staying with me at the time, because she was out with him, and I just came straight in and went to sleep. So I was good up until about, wait. She put me on another medication here about 3 years ago, and that medication just took the edge off. It never made me feel like myself. I just kept telling my doctor, is something missing, is something missing, is something wrong, I don't feel like myself. And she just couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't figure out what it was, but I just knew I didn't feel like myself. So here in April, I had like 3 jobs. I was working out every day. I was just feeling really good. I hadn't been sick. I was just, like taking it all in, like trying not to do too much, but just going with the flow. I was working the 3 jobs. I was going to work out every day. And then I caught a virus from one of my jobs that had been going around. It made me sick for like 10 days. I mean, I was really bad. And then I was like, I had diarrhea really bad. I was throwing up. I couldn't keep anything down. So I started feeling depressed. And then I was telling my husband, like, I'm so sick of being sick. If I have to be sick, then I'd rather just go ahead and die, because I'm tired of being sick, and this is no way to live. This is, I'm just taking up space. It's just no way to live, because if you can't do anything, you can't go anywhere, you can't see anybody. I mean, what am I here for? So, I stayed in bed for weeks. And then, I started just feeling suicidal. I wouldn't get up and do anything. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't brush my teeth. I wouldn't take a bath. I wouldn't go outside the room. I had the curtains drawn and the blinds drawn. I didn't want anybody to knock on my door. I didn't want anybody to turn on my bedroom light. I didn't want to be bothered with anyone. I did not call anyone. So I stayed like that for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then my husband kept trying to get me up, and then I kept saying no. And he says, the Lord knows what you're trying to do. You're trying to lay here and kill yourself and wither away. And I'm like, God dog it, how do this man know what I'm thinking? So of course I denied it and said, no, that's not the case, that I'm just really tired. And he said he don't believe me. So he said if I'm not up within the next day or so, he was gonna call my sister, my mama, and all these people to try to come and get me out the bed. But that didn't work anyway. But anyway, the next couple days, I continued to tell him, that I didn't want to be here, and he wanted to take me to the hospital. And I said, I won't go right now because I'm so tired, but I will go later. So once I got enough energy to take a shower, I got up, took the shower, and that drained me. So then I got back in the bed and laid down until later on that evening. Then I got up about 7 o'clock and went into the emergency room. And they asked me what was I doing there, and I told them, if I didn't come in today, that I feel like it wouldn't be a tomorrow. So they immediately take me to the back holding area and give me this blue gown. It was different from all the other gowns they had the other people with. So I guess this was a trigger to let people know that you're there for psychiatric reasons. So it went well. The doctor did a lot of tests. They kept me there overnight because social work wasn't in at the time. And they didn't find anything wrong with my stomach, but I still was having the diarrhea when I was there, but they couldn't find anything. I had started to lose weight. I was always tired. I was just sleeping, and I was sleeping so much. And then when I would get up to go to the bathroom, it's like I was drunk, and I was like wobbling all over the place, like I was really still sleepy. So it was crazy. But anyway, I got to the hospital, they did all the tests, and they didn't find anything, so they just kept me there. And then the next morning, social work came in and talked to me. And my husband had got off work, and he came, and my son. And the social worker was in there with me by herself, and she asked me, how was I going to kill myself? And I told her that I was going to get my husband's gun and shoot myself. And so she talked to the doctor about that and talked to my husband about that, and said that she thought it was best that if I go to a facility for a couple of days so they can try to work on my medications and for me to get some therapy. So I decided to say yes because I do feel like I needed it. And like I said, the medicines were not working that I was on. So I went in to this facility, and they were nice. They weren't mean. They weren't nasty to you. The place was clean. It wasn't a bad experience for me. I did get to meet some people. I was able to, share in their stories with them, and I shared my story with them. And, I wouldn't get up. I would only get up for mealtime and med time because the medicines that they had me on had me still sleepy. So they said it was going to take some time for me not to feel that way until the medicines get into my system. If you didn't come out and get your medications, though, the nurses would tell the doctors that you're refusing your medications and that you wouldn't come and get them, and then that would make you have to stay in the facility longer. So I would at least get up to do that, so I wouldn't have to stay there. I would only stay there the minimal. So that was my Mother's Day weekend of 2019. I was in the psychiatric hospital. I seen a few doctors there, one of them being, of course, a psychiatrist, and he did give me a different regimen of medications. And, he asked me some questions about, do I cuss? Do I fly off the handle? Do I throw things? And I'm like, yeah, that's like my normal behavior. Yeah. So I didn't want to lie. And I'm like, yeah. So he was the first one who diagnosed me with bipolar depression. I had always been told that I have major depression or just depression or anxiety or just never bipolar depression. I didn't even know there was a such thing as bipolar depression. So I got new meds and stuff, and then they kept me about 5 days, and then I was able to be discharged and go home. I didn't really do much therapy because, like I said, I was sleepy all the time. And so I was released and I came home, and then it was like a slap in the face because I'm like, the meds are not working yet. And I just went right back to the same things I was doing. I was like laying down all the time, sleep all the time, not doing anything productive, wouldn't get out of bed still not washing up, still not brushing my teeth. My hair was a mess. I smelled like an orangutan's ass. I was just like, didn't care about myself or, my hygiene or anything at that matter. So I came out. They hooked me up with a outpatient doctor. So I went to see her within a week, and she said she wasn't going to change anything at that time because she wanted to try to see if that medication was actually going to work. Well, it didn't work. I had to go back and see her in a month. It did not work. So at that time, she added another medication, and she said she was going to send me back in another month. So I came back in another month. Still no changes, still in the bed, still not doing anything. So she took that medication away and added one that I could take twice a day. And then she also divided up my medications that I was taking all once a day. She made me start taking all of them twice a day. But that still didn't help either. I think I got a little relief, like I was not sleeping the whole 24 hours, but I was sleeping probably 20 of them because I would wake up for a couple hours and watch TV, and then I would fall back to sleep. I was still isolating myself, no communication with the outside world, and I stayed really anxious all the time. Like, this is the worst my anxiety and my depression had ever been. Just nervous. My hands are shaking. My stomach is rumbling. My mind is all over the place. So I was taking twice the dose of my anxiety pill because it would not calm down. So she wanted to see me back in 2 weeks this time to see if the medication would work. And then also before I left the office, she said that if this medication regimen didn't work, that she was going to start me on the tutor. So I took the meds as she told me, and then here comes life. I had a dramatic event that transpired about a week later. Somebody that was like a sister, aunt, cousin, and friend to me, she passed away. It was really, really painful. And I already was a nervous wreck. I felt like I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And then I got that news, and it just sent me spiraling right back down to square one. I was back to sleeping and doing nothing else productive throughout the day. The anxiety was on overdrive. Mind still racing. I couldn't come to grips with anything. I went to see my therapist and told him what was going on. Spoke with the doctor while I was there, and they both thought it was in my best interest not to attend the funeral, since I had already gone on a downward spiral. But I'm like, okay, I'm telling them okay, but it's like, no way I'm not going to show up to this funeral. That's what I was thinking in the back of my mind. So I tried to be hard-headed, and I said I was going to the funeral anyway. I asked my husband to drive me, but I could not get ready that morning. I had diarrhea. I had panic attacks. I couldn't walk, talk, or do anything. I was just a mess. Even though I thought I was going to disappoint a lot of people, I was willing to jeopardize my own self and my own health just to show people that I care. And, now that I'm back to my normal self, I'm like, I was really playing around with my well-being, because if you know me and you've known me for all these years, then you already know I care, and you already know that I have what type of character I have, how loving and caring I am. You already know these things. So, you know, I had to start thinking about it like that. So I just thought, you know, I can't even take care of my damn self. So how am I gonna go over there and try to comfort them when I'm looking all sad and down and not talking and just looking spaced out? So I stayed in that dark tunnel, not able to see the light for another month or so, because she wanted to see me back in 6 weeks after she started me on the Latuda. And after I've been on the Latuda for like 3 or 4 days, that was the only thing that worked. She added that Latuda to my regimen, and after 3 or 4 days, I was up, ready to get a shower, putting on my clothes, ready to go outside, cleaning up. I was doing everything. And so for the first time in 6 months, I had put on clothes, I washed my butt, brushed my teeth, and that one pill became the addition to the regimen that I had. It was what I needed. It was a really scary time in my life. I had never experienced depression to that degree. I was always snappy towards everybody. I just wanted everybody to stay away from me. And for the first time in my life, I felt that I had no control over what was happening to me. I had no control over my thoughts. I had no control over my body. I thought that I could do, mind over matter, you know, like a lot of people always say. Well, I tried to be positive and say, okay, well, mind over matter. Let me start thinking positive. I started saying, okay, I'm going to get up the next day. This was before the Latuda though. I'm going to get up the next day, do some cleaning, put on my clothes, and sit on the porch and for a while and, you know, start doing some stuff around the house. Next day will come. I was like stuck. And so it made me feel helpless. I was angry because I couldn't even control my own body. That's when I realized that depression is really powerful. It overtakes you. It is something real. You can't shake it off. You can't pray it off. Not true clinical depression. You cannot pray it off. I prayed in that bed every day that I laid in the bed, and nothing changed. You can't sleep it off. You can't do anything but get medical help to help you to battle this demon. So we must take mental illness serious. I almost lost my life to it. It's not that I truly want to die, but my mind in my mind, it was telling me to kill myself. Those were the type of emotions I was having. So I urge you, if you're feeling sad, helpless, hopeless, fatigued, crying a lot, have aggression, mood swings, or if you're suicidal, if you have decreased energy, confidence, or motivation, it's likely that you may be experiencing some type of depression. Please do not try to go at this alone or handle this alone. If you have somebody that you can confide in them and let them know what's going on, and you know, maybe they can help you to find some help or do something that can make you not feel that way. But just don't try to handle it alone, because your mind is not working properly. You can call 1-800-273-8255. That is the number for depression, and they also help with suicidal tendencies. So I hope this testimonial helped somebody. And as I told you guys, I will always be transparent with you. I don't hold anything back. So, I mean, I'm not like intentionally trying to tell my business, but I know that God said that we all are a testimony to one another, and what I've gone through could help somebody else. So God bless, and get help.